Bona tarda, good afternoon from beautiful Barcelona. I am Alexis Roche, CEO of SciTech Diplo Hub, the Barcelona Science and Technology Diplomacy Hub. Thank you so much for joining us today at this event, part of the Barcelona Alumni webinar series, which features Barcelona's top talent abroad. For those that join us for the first time, Barcelona Alumni is the global network of high-achieving scientists, researchers, technology experts, and innovation leaders training Barcelona's knowledge ecosystem and currently based abroad. The network currently gathers more than 1,000 members from over 30 countries, including many of you attending this event today. In today's webinar, organized by Catalonia AI Chapter, the Barcelona alumni community of global AI experts, a joint initiative with the Ministry of the Vice-presidency, Digital Policies and Territory of the Government of Catalonia and IDEAI-UPC Foundation, we will address the opportunities for upskilling in an AI-driven future. But before kicking off with our panel, we are delighted to welcome Mr. Daniel Marco, Director General for Innovation and Digital Economy of the Government of Catalonia, who will share some welcome words with us. Danny, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alexis, and good evening to all of you. Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on from where you are connected. A very special greeting to our three speakers, Christian Canton, Glòria, Macià, and Karina, Gibert, and thank you very much for joining us in this webinar, sharing your experience and your knowledge. It's a pleasure to welcome you and all the attendees of this webinar on behalf of the Government of Catalonia to the Barcelona Alumni Artificial Intelligence Chapter, and all these three cracks that are going to talk about this exciting topic that is the talent that we need to develop an AI-driven society. Catalonia, Europe, and the whole world has been suddenly immersed in one of the worst health, economic, and social crises, and it has been the field of science, technology, and digitalization that have allowed us to face the COVID-19, providing solutions to get out this terrible pandemic. The new economic, social, and political revolution is being generated by research and innovation centers of companies and institutions specialized in digital advanced technologies around the world, led by people like you, by people like our speakers and our audience of this webinar. You are the protagonists of this change. Your innovations will determine the future of our nations and the future of Catalonia. That is why I want to thank you very much for your contribution to a better world, a better life, and a better Catalonia. And also to maintain your connection with the innovation and knowledge Catalan ecosystem through this Barcelona Alumni Catalonia AI Chapter. In this context, within the digital strategy of the Government of Catalonia to make Catalonia as a referent digital nation, in February 2020, the government approved the Artificial Intelligence Strategy of Catalonia, Catalonia.ai, in order to generate, retain, and attract specialized talent in the field of artificial intelligence and position Catalonia as one of the strong hubs in AI in Europe. Talent is, in fact, one of the 6 axes of the strategies, and one of the areas where we have been working strongly. Thanks to the support to the government, in this coming academic year, the 2 first degrees in AI will be launched in Catalonia, one from Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya and another from Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona, maybe places where you have been studied in the past. We are also launching a training course for the citizens in collaboration with UPC, that is led by Karina, one of our speakers. Maybe she can talk about that later on. And also, regarding to talent, it's the launch of this Barcelona Alumni AI Chapter in collaboration with Science Diplo Hub And Alexis, thank you very much for your collaboration. This chapter brings together the international community of scientific research experts in technology and leading entrepreneurs in the field of artificial intelligence. Primed and that has been working also in the area of influence of Barcelona, Catalonia, and now you are currently residing abroad. You are part of this network of global talent that will allow us to maximize the opportunities and value of the activities of the universities, research centers, companies, and public administrations that in Catalonia are working on AI. We believe that retaining the talent is not only to keep them physically in Catalonia, but keep them connected to our ecosystem and give them the opportunities to take part of what we are doing here in Catalonia. My gratitude to all of you for being part of this chapter in AI and try to work together to put Catalonia better connected to the world. Thank you very much for making Catalonia a more innovative and prosperous city, prosperous country, and put the talent on the center of this strategy. Have a great webinar, and I will give the floor again to Alexis to moderate the panel. Good luck to all.
Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you so much for your kind words and for the commitment of the government in boosting Catalonia's AI ecosystem. Despite the looming uncertainty felt throughout 2020, the prevalence of AI has been undeniable. AI has been deployed across the globe to better understand the dynamics of the pandemic. Companies have increasingly relied on machine learning-enabled systems to re-engineer production delivery in the face of a massive disruption in supply chains. Policymakers have also turned to AI technologies to their great promise in strengthening the quality of remote education delivery. And over the last 4 years, AI specialists represent the fastest growing role in the United States. And AI job postings have gone up consistently over the past 2 years with a 51% spike during the pandemic. But how are AI companies capitalizing on the wealth of AI specialist roles? How are they championing digital transformation through AI training? What are the main skill areas to focus on for anyone looking to take advantage of AI opportunities in the field of work? What abilities will allow you to stay relevant in the field? How can AI help prepare workers for the disruptions underway? To shed light on some of these issues, today we are delighted to welcome 3 world-class experts in AI, machine learning, and data science. We have with us Cristian Canton, head of Facebook AI Security Red Team, a member of Barcelona Alumni in the US. Bona tarda. Good afternoon, Cristian.
Bona tarda. Good afternoon.
Yes. Glòria Macià, Senior Data Scientist at Roche, a member of Barcelona Alumni in Switzerland. Bona tarda, good afternoon.
Bona tarda, good afternoon.
And Karina Gibert, Professor and Researcher at the Intelligent Data Science and Artificial Intelligence Research Center at Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya. Bona tarda. Welcome, and thank you all for joining us today. Cristian, you are currently the head of Facebook AI Red Team, the white hat security team that attacks AI to uncover its vulnerabilities. Prior to this, you were a developer at Facebook and Microsoft, as well as a technical expert for the European Commission, working on EU projects related to image processing, computer vision, and machine learning. Can you put a few words on the roles and projects you are developing at Facebook AI Red Team? And could you share with us what projects are currently underway at Facebook in terms of upskilling and boosting competencies in AI and machine learning? What are, from your experience, the main skills areas to focus on for anyone looking to take advantage of AI opportunities in the future of work?
Good, thank you. These are 3 questions. I'm going to try to address them one by one. So, regarding the kind of work I do at Facebook, as you mentioned, one of my teams is focused on what are the risks of AI nowadays. So, and this is a very natural evolution of AI. At the very beginning, AI started to become like that tool that was solving very hard problems that before were almost unsolvable. And nowadays, everything has an AI component. Even the simplest thing, even your toothbrush may even have like an AI component. Naturally, that creates a threat. Eventually, someone might try to use that AI or try to compromise it in some way just to do something that was not expected, not intended. And that's where like you have to start thinking on what could be the worst case scenario for your AI? How it could be compromised? How to harm the world? That falls into a very big umbrella that in Facebook and many other companies we call integrity, that tries to protect our user, protect our assets, our services, etc. My team puts that white hat that you mentioned and tries to think, okay, how if I were to be a bad actor trying to like use my platform to spread misinformation or something bad, how would I prevent that? Trying to put ourselves in the shoes of that bad actor and try to be one step ahead. And that revolves around this concept of robustness. How do we make sure that our AI is robust, that it does exactly the thing that we intended it to do under stress conditions? You could imagine other scenarios where AI is used to do harm. For instance, deepfakes has been like a very important topic in misinformation, in election processes, trying to to impersonate someone, to put the word that nobody said into that person. So there's a lot of aspects where this field of like making AI robust, where that's where my team at Facebook has a role to play here. And in time, this is going to become more and more prevalent. We'll need to make sure that our AI does the right things every time in the worst conditions. So you were asking also, what are the main skills to focus to AI skills to get opportunities? And this is a very interesting question. I've been in academia before and I've been in the industry for a while. And one of the things that comes very interesting when you join a company, and as you mentioned, I've been in several roles in several corporations, is not just to think about AI as something that can solve any problem. We have to find like the right AI to solve the right problem for a customer. And sometimes this connection between what the customer needs and what the AI can provide, it doesn't need to be the state of the art. It might be, but it has to be the thing that works. And with the least amount of resources consumed, it's a trade-off between economy, performance, and performance, or like service provided to the customer. So another big interesting area where any AI practitioner should always focus is data. So we always believe like, hey, I build my algorithm, like we put it in production, happy with. Well, this might happen, this might work in small scenarios where you have a small amount of data. You could imagine like working in big corporations where you have like billions or trillions of data points per hour. Making sure that your AI perform under these circumstances is a very different scenario. You need to fill the data. You need to get into that. As we say in my team, like 99% of the work is going to be filling the data, understanding what you want to solve. And of course, AI is an important part of that 1%, but the data is going to be an important area of understanding. So focus on your data. That's an important thing I always tell any AI practitioner. Understand your problem, understand what you're trying to solve here. Don't go for the state-of-the-art solution. Try simple things first and go and make things harder and harder. Like, because you might have a simple solution that delivers what you're going to get, and you don't want to find the overcomplicated one. So that mindset, it's very critical in order to be successful in this upcoming world where like AI specialists are needed more and more. And what does Facebook do in order to upscale AI talent around? So there's many things. Of course, we have like several programs. I have like a program called RACE, that is intended for engineers that come to the company with no AI skills and they really want to muscle up on this. I have a program to help them develop that. Another very important thing is to have a strong network, and this is like ties to Barcelona Alumni, but in any level, having a network of colleagues and friends that can help you, that point you where to get the right resources to learn. A lot of like the AI development is going to be on you finding that passion to learn and go deep into that. So finding the right talent to support you, finding the right projects, this is very critical. I would say that this is one of the things that we have at Facebook is also like a very strong communication network. We have like our internal Facebook for Facebook employees, which is public. Actually, many people use that. It's called Workspace, where you can like connect with everyone in the company. And that allows us like, hey, I have an idea. Can anyone help me like find the right paper or the right person or the right data to use that? And that allows you this fast pace that slowly builds on that muscle for AI. But I want to, just to finish, to me, I witnessed this progress from like when I started working where AI was an utopia. Nothing works. Like what will work. Then you have this like dawn of deep learning and everything start to work pretty nicely. At some point, AI is a craft. It's a science, but it's a craft. There's a lot of work that you have to do to really understand how to make things work. So just like that part of like filling the data, working with the algorithm, like internalizing it and making it work, this is the hard part. And there's no shortcut. You need to spend hours. You need to spend time. You need to talk to your colleagues. And eventually, I mean, you become an AI expert, whatever that means. That could be what my recommendations are.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Christian. We'll see if your colleagues agree on what is an AI expert or not, and about the different insights you were sharing with us. Glòria is a data scientist at Roche, where she strives to bring AI-powered solutions to one of the most highly regulated industries worldwide. Healthcare is emerging as a prominent area for AI applications, and the pharma industry is actively looking for professionals who can leverage their data skills to help facilitate drug research, reduce development costs, and make supply chains smarter and more responsive. Glòria, could you share with us how are pharma companies like Roche moving towards data-driven decisions and automation? How is data science, AI, and machine learning embedded with the structure of a pharma company? And what skill set is needed to navigate AI in pharma from your opinion and personal experience?
Absolutely. So I think for me, where Roche positions itself in the AI market in the context of personalized healthcare, right? So what it means, if you look 20 years back in time or 30 years back in time, the goal was, so to say, to find treatments for cancer, a treatment that would work for our population. And then you would face the fact that a treatment would work for some individuals pretty good, and some individuals wouldn't respond to that, right? And then scientists, of course, start gathering more data, like genomic data, and try to understand why are those differences between individuals, right? And I think, for instance, in the context of Roche, right, two very important medications that had a radical improve of, for instance, breast cancer survival are Herceptin or Kadcyla, right? And these two medications essentially target a very specific genomic mutation, right? So I think that's the power of personalized healthcare. You gather data about the individual, and then you can really take decisions that you know that will benefit that exact person, right? So what I think we are having now is to expand these options, right? And genomic profiling and the data that's gathered through it, it's becoming more and more of a trend, right? And that's why we need data scientists, because we know we need people who can go around this complexity and break it down. Then on what AI can do in healthcare, I have friends who say, you know, I read a lot on LinkedIn about AI, but I don't quite picture it in my head. What can AI do for me? And I think it's a fair question, because if you Google AI, you will get all these images of, you know, kind of like brain and cyborgs. And I don't know why, but this blue color, which seems to also be associated to AI. And I say, you know, I can give two examples of a couple, I would say, projects, volunteering I do in my free time, which are very related to what I loved, which is AI for good, right? And always related to healthcare. So, for instance, a year ago, I participated in a data science competition, also something which is super popular in the AI data science field, organized by the Global Institute of Health, right? And what they were doing is they were trying to target snake bite. So snake bite is a terrible tropical disease. We are not very aware because we don't suffer the consequences of it, right? You can imagine the type of countries that suffer the consequences of it and the economies that these countries have, right? So what the Global Institute of Health did is they gathered a lot of pictures that users who had been bitten by a snake took, right? So sometimes you would see the full snake. Sometimes you would only see the tail of the snake running away. Sometimes you would see the snake with the head chopped off. And it was an image classification competition, right? So participants had from the picture to build an AI model that would tell the snake type. And why is it so important? Because by identifying the right snake, you can identify the right antivenom, which is really the challenge, right? Because you have these rural communities where you rarely have a doctor. And when you have a doctor, it's going to be very unlikely that this person is a herpetologist, right? Someone who specializes in snakes. So having this kind of app, which is similar to PlantSnap for, you know, identifying plants, but for snakes, that can have a huge impact, right? So I think that's kind of a very nice case of AI for good, right? And that's kind of like why I went so hard into it, because I think we definitely have the power to do so much good. I mean, of course, AI, as Kristen said, comes with a whole bunch of problems, right? But it also comes with great potential to help others. Also, something I organized here in Barcelona is to fundraise for la Marató de TV3, malalties minoritarias, so minority diseases. I organize an AI bootcamp, right? So for people who want to learn basic AI training, I would teach for free, and they would donate the money to La Marató de TV3, right? And we raised more than 2,000, so that was absolutely great, right? And what we did in that bootcamp is we tried to work with male breast cancer data. And I want to highlight that because sometimes, like most of us, associate breast cancer with pink with women, right? But it's actually a fact that men have breasts, so men can suffer from breast cancer too, right? So I'm kind of like using also this event to raise awareness on that, because the problem is that whereas women, we have these routine checks and we have a much higher frequency, we also get detected in early stages. So we have way more positive survival outcomes, right? Whereas by men, they only get detected in late, so to say, metastatic stages, right? So what we were trying to do with the participants in boot camps is, so to say, to create the first male breast cancer database in Spain, with collaboration with the HECAM, that's like the breast cancer research center in Spain, also work, so that men get their own clinical guidelines, so that men don't get treated the same way as women do just because they don't have their own guidelines, right? So I think that's it from my side. I just wanted to give you 2 examples of like what Roche does in personalized healthcare and what we as citizens empowered by AI can do for one another.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Glòria. That was very inspiring, and I'm sure that we're going to have the opportunity to delve further into this topic later on. Barcelona was recently identified as the 4th ranked city of technological future, right after Singapore, London, and Shanghai, with AI as one of the key technological enablers. There are currently almost 100 companies working on AI in Barcelona, and the Digital Talent Overview 2019 report highlighted AI as the most demanding emerging sector in Barcelona, with an expected shortage of over 14,000 professionals this year. Karina is professor and researcher at the Intelligent Data Science and Artificial Intelligence Research Center at UPC, the Polytechnical University of Catalonia. She's Vice Dean on Big Data, Data Science, and AI of the Official Professional Chamber of Informatics Engineering of Catalonia, and co-author of the Catalan Strategic Plan for AI of the Catalan government. Karina, what opportunities do you envision for talented professionals in AI, data science and machine learning? And why is Barcelona a place to be right now in AI? How do you think we can create, retain, attract, and connect specialized talent in this area of knowledge and research?
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me to that meeting, and I very much agree with the recommendations of my colleagues before me. And what I can tell you is that in Barcelona, in Catalonia, in fact, in general, we have a quite mature community and a quite mature ecosystem on artificial intelligence. No, so for more than 30 years, we have a quite solid research community that is organized in a scientific association that is very well cohesioned. So we meet every year. We have our own international conference every year. So for 30 years, we have been creating knowledge on artificial intelligence that is Catalan manufacture, and that is very well connected with the international community and quite recognized at international level. No. And in the last years in Catalonia, we have been growing in a layer of innovation that has been making the change, I would say. So at a certain point, the research created in the technological centers started to grow up and to go outside of the universities and the research centers and to start to create real applications in the innovation, new startups and spin-offs and all these sort of things. And also we have here quite interesting tissue on venture capitals that help all this innovation to be developed. No, This comes together with the attractiveness of the city towards big corporations. So companies like Amazon or Microsoft or HP decided to have headquarters in Barcelona or in the nearby, and they started to build big research centers or research departments here in Barcelona. No? So they are creating also all those jobs connected with this international, let's say, flavor, let's say in that way. So all these things, together with the idea that, together with the fact that Catalonia is one of the few territories that has not a political state, but that have been developing a national strategy on artificial intelligence. And in the view of this Catalan strategy, that's Catalonia AI, there is this view to promote the ecosystem. So the idea of that's behind this strategy is to enhance the links in between startups, big corporations, universities, technological centers, venture capitals, public financial support, sponsorship of private capital, and to create a kind of system that, you know, Catalonia is not that big, so it's a society where more or less in the sector it's easy to have links and to know who knows what and who is good at what. So it's very easy to start collaborations and to create new business and new research around artificial intelligence. No, if you add to that Barcelona is a beautiful city. I'm not from Barcelona, so I can tell without any kind of limitation. It's a very nice city with very nice weather and very nice cultural and live city, and with a nice climate and good food. So it's a very nice place to live, and it's very well internationalized at that moment. So you can work here for a company that's abroad. So this makes the city a very nice place to come to work on AI. AI now is one of the trackers of the digital transformation. We are in the middle of this digital transformation. Of course, COVID crisis was accelerating a lot this kind of processes. And on top of that, you have to take into account that this is, I think this is a problem that's around the world. There's a terrible shortage on the sector. So the sector demands much more professionals than those that the academy is able to produce. No, so there is place for everyone. We have full employment sector, so less than 4% of unemployment in the sector. And especially, I have to finish my intervention by making a call to women. So the shortage is big. There's a need of new professionals in the field, either men or women. But since there is the shortage, women has a lot of place there, and they have not to fight with men to get a nice position, because there is much more positions than professionals. And also, it's very much important that women comes into the field and provides a different view of the reality to print into the new technology, also the female view that makes the technology a little bit different than the one we can create only by male. So that's my suggestions.
Definitely. Thank you, Karina. Actually, a lot has been discussed about how some AI systems are biased by our social bias that we have as a society led by men. So definitely a more women perspective on new technologies, and specifically AI is really needed. All of you have been discussing, or you have introduced in your interventions, the role of communities, of networks, or of like how cooperative one to each other, is enabling creating AI ecosystems in some local places, or tapping into colleagues in your company in order to develop projects and so on. So before opening the floor for questions, I would like to ask to the three panelists, considering what we have been discussing today, why is it valuable to have a network like Barcelona Alumni, from your opinion, and how can we leverage its potential for the benefit of both Barcelona's local AI ecosystem and the alumni members themselves, which are worldwide based? Who would like to start? Maybe you, Christian? Yeah.
I can start. Definite network is important. It's probably the most important thing that after 20 years in the industry, I learned. Those people that you met 10 years ago might be the person that will provide you the next opportunity today. I have plenty of examples of that. It's important to nurture that network. The network will not happen by itself magically. You have to create it. You have to develop. I want to call out an example. Every year there's the biggest conference in computer vision, CVPR. And for the last, 10 or even more years, we organize a lunch, the Catalan lunch for CVPR. And it's 60 people sometimes. We get 60 Catalans from all over the world. It's like a huge population. And we create that network. We help each other. And we consult. And hey, they have a position. Send me in a student. Let's create those opportunities. And this is small scale. At the scale of Barcelona Alumni, and all the time that we have this around the world, this is critical. If we ever want to say make Catalonia an AI hub, again, I want to go back to Catalonia. I'm living in Seattle. I'm very happy here, but my long term is I want to go back there and help and create talent and create. This is critical. We need to help each other. We need to create that synergy and make that happen. That will not happen without sweat, without effort, without money, without dedication, without a lot of factors. Each of us has a role to play here. We need to structure that, and that's why I'm very thankful to you, Alexis, and all the Barcelona AI Diplotech for all the work that you're doing on that. But we need more. Honestly, this is just the top of the iceberg. And last thing, the COVID world that we are living nowadays, that these last 2 years that have been extremely hard for everyone, has had a positive outcome. So big companies and small companies have learned to work remotely. Many companies are allowing policies for, hey, you can work for wherever you want in the world. Some are more restrictive. This is an opportunity, guys. Let's make Barcelona the hub where maybe you can bring, hey, you want to work remotely? Come here. As you say, there's a beautiful city. There's a beautiful weather. The life quality is amazing. Let's try to find any opportunity possible to attract talent in any way. Let's be aggressive. And I'm sorry for the word. Let's be ruthless on that. Big things do not get achieved with small steps. You have to break when they're no, come on, we're going to be doing that, period. Let's put all the horses into that. That's a bit of my maybe American mentality after so many years here, but we need to push hard and we will get that. That's my 2 cents on this.
Oh, definitely. That's what we need to make things happen. That's why we are here today and along the year in all these sorts of activities and projects we try to do together. Thank you so much, Christian. Glòria?
What I would say, to me, Barcelona is super attractive because we have both a fantastic tech ecosystem and also a very strong healthcare ecosystem, right? I want to emphasize how good our healthcare system is, how good the doctors we have are. And I'm saying now that I've seen other countries, right? The amount of clinical trials we have going on at Hospital Clínic Vall d'Hebron, we are sometimes aware of how lucky we are to be able to go there as a patient and as a healthcare professional to have that network, right? That can give access to us to so many opportunities. So I think that's very, very important, because to me, obviously people say you learn a lot from failure, but it's even better if you don't have to experiment failure and you can get some things right from the beginning, right? And I would say, to me, one of the biggest success components is the team. And having a network allows you to get to know the team before you work with them, because you can choose them from also the opinions of your friends, the opinions of your colleagues. A person might look great on paper, it might be another thing when you meet them personally, right? So I think that's what I love the most about my network, how supportive we are to each other, right? And I think that's also where I see this Barcelona alumni community, in which people can exchange ideas, exchange job opportunities, connect to each other. That's, to me, very powerful.
Thank you so much, Glòria, and let's hope that soon we can also start meeting face to face again as we used to do in the past. Karina?
Yes, my experience is in the same sense. I think as a researcher, I would say that having international network is always very, very much important when you are trying to be competitive in international projects, for example. No? So for all those formation of consortiums of research projects for the H2020 and also other international organizations, it's very nice if you know some people that is in Europe, it's in Netherlands or in Italy or whatever you need, and that has a profile more on speech recognition or more on computer vision and more on approximate reasoning. So whenever you are part of a network, of an international network, you always have this the right partner in the right place with the right specialty when you need to build this kind of things. And this provides you a lot of competitivity because you can form the teams in much shorter time than others that have not this international network. No? So that's one point. And also the idea that with the network, when you exchange people with a network, you normally create ideas in a quicker way. So you are more creative, and you can put the ideas into place, into execution with additional channels than when you don't have the network. No? So your voice is different if it is part of a network or not, and the network always can help to create bigger promotions for everybody in a better way. So we have been experiencing that with the networks of women that I have been leading and founding here in Catalonia. So years ago, when a lady was saying something about his professional career in his company as an isolated person, nobody was listening to them. If today one of those women say this thing as a part of a network of women that is more or less surveilling what is happening, the voice of that women weighs double or three times, no? And this is the same when we are talking about science. It's not about women only. I mean, the power of networks is always the same. I have my own alumni network. So all the persons that have been working with me on PhD thesis or master thesis or final degree thesis are connected in a network, and they are spread out all over the world. And we have been exchanging information for the last 30 years, and this is so much fruitful every time. So when we need partners for a project, when we need someone is looking for a job position, and he puts the position, the offer of the position in the network, and this works alone, and everything goes fast. So that's very nice, and it's one of the most important values of the network on my own. I can tell you that at the end of my career, of my training process, I was doing a scientific stage in Toulouse, no? And you can imagine, about 30 years ago, there was no LinkedIn, no mail, no WhatsApp, no cell phones, nothing. So I was arriving in Toulouse, and my only connection was my boss. So I was knowing that boss, and I was totally alone. And by the moment at which I was understanding the dynamics of the city, it was about half of my stage there. So today, being a Catalan student that comes to Seattle, or an American student that comes to Barcelona, works in a very different way, and the integration is much more powerful just because we have networks. So that's very nice.
Good. Thank you so much, Karina. Couldn't agree more on the role of networks. Actually, we were pointing out earlier today about how being a member of a network such as Barcelona Alumni, gathering all the Barcelona-trained scientific talent or technological talent abroad, is a tool for your own career, of course, like tapping into connections, job opportunities, joint projects, and so on. But it's also, and maybe mainly a tool also, as you were pointing out with the case of women and other communities, to join forces and have a stronger voice when trying to change things, as Christian was saying earlier, when we're saying like, okay, let's try to change the mindset of how we build an ecosystem on AI or in general as a STI ecosystem in Barcelona, as the diaspora, people that have been living, working, doing research in all sorts of different countries and institutions. Either if we come back physically to Barcelona or we're just like keep connected remotely through networks like this one, we have an important role to play because we're central at reshaping the future of our ecosystem. So I couldn't agree more with your words. We have several questions from our audience. Let me remind you all that if you want to ask a question to our speakers today, you can use the question tab on the right of your screen, and you can also vote others' questions to give them some priority. So we will start with a question by Aurélien from Cambridge, UK. He has a question for Glòria. He asked, Barcelona has been known for its strong medical schools and pharma industry, and in recent years it has witnessed the emergence of a strong AI ecosystem. But integrating AI and modern analytics into medicine and pharma isn't an easy task. So how can we bridge the culture gap between the two disciplines? That one of them is consolidated in Barcelona and other we could say that is emerging.
I think that's a great question. Look, what I can say is what makes the healthcare industry very different from other industries, but similar to, let's say, aviation, is that, or banking, is that we are highly regulated, right? So I cannot put more emphasis. It doesn't matter if you are an engineer or a healthcare professional, a doctor, or if you have studied computer science or you're a mathematician, learn the rules of the game, right? So we have the medical device regulation. The EU has released an AI regulation, kind of learn the handbook, right? You wouldn't sit with your friends and try to play a game without having read the rules, because you would know you have no chance of succeeding, right? So here is the same from the beginning. And I mean, you will see sometimes I give talks on how to bring AI medical devices to the market, because what I realize is many of the startups looked a lot in like the technology part. Some of them look at the business part, and then very few put emphasis on the regulation until it's too late, right? So my advice would be, before you have a great idea, learn the regulatory pathways and then frame your idea in the rules of the game. Do it the other way around, and then you won't see them as barriers, but as one more player. Right. So if you want to take something out of it, let it be that.
If I can add something, I have been making research on the last 25 years on health. And for me, the most important thing is to have the health professionals in the loop. So you cannot develop a clinical device without having all those actors that are relevant for also the design of the thing, but also for the use of the thing. So in the cases in which the research in our case has been more successful, we have been creating multidisciplinary teams from minute zero. So multidisciplinary teams, that mean with manager of the hospital, with clinical specialists, with nurses, with patients, with family of patients, with informal caregivers, and everybody together. Then you can create something that is useful, that is respectful with regulation, and that is solving the problem. Otherwise, there is a lot of backtracking in the middle of the research.
I think that's a super good point. I would say sometimes people think about like the team you bring on board, for instance, the investors, because of the money they can bring, right? But I mean, if you are a medical startup, and you will need to do like a clinical trial or a clinical evaluation, you can take a look at St. Joan de Deus webpage and you will see how much that costs, right? So it's very smart to have from the very beginning a doctor sitting on your board, right? Because that person would be the advocate of your product, and that person will help you recruit the patients so that you can do then the clinical trials. Because again, recruiting patients for your clinical trial is so challenging, because when you think of it, a clinical trial is essentially a gamble that people go into because they are desperate, right? So plan that from the very beginning.
Really interesting insights that I'm sure that our audience is really enjoying. We have a question for Christian from Joao from Brazil. He's asking, is Facebook scouting the work being done at labs, universities, and startups, I guess, like globally? If so, how can we position Barcelona's AI ecosystem as a first-class partner? Could the next Facebook AI incubator program be located in Barcelona, Christian?
That's a question. If every time they ask me that question, they give me a cent, probably I will be a millionaire. So definitely Facebook keeps an eye on the state of the art, on every big lab, every university. We have a huge intern project that we bring all the top students of the world every summer to our teams to do tech transfer. We have a lot of like partnership with universities around the world. So yes, Facebook keeps an eye on all that. Of course, we need to like recruit people. As Karina was saying, like we need like to find the right people like to fuel our industry. So like we recruit everywhere in the world, in Europe, in the US, in Asia, everywhere. So definitely we are aware of that, and we do tech transfer and all of this. How do we position Barcelona's AI ecosystem? Is a great question. I honestly, I will refer again, like we need to be bold. So other countries have taken, I've discussed that with Danny in other occasions, is let's take one topic and let's make the country the best specialist on that. For instance, Switzerland is well known for medical. You have a ton of like good medical stuff happening there. Israel is good for some AI. I mean, like Israel is a country that's well known for their AI. What is Catalonia known for? AI is an emergent thing, but probably if you like say AI, probably Catalonia will not come top of your mind. Like, what do we need to accomplish that? Who do we need to hire? How do we build, like, when people say like, oh, Catalonia is the world expert on this thing, in AI or in a branch of AI, because AI is so big right now that it's really hard to just pinpoint a slice of that. We still have some work to do in positioning ourselves. And this is, it's a global strategy. It comes from us, comes from government, comes from regulation, comes from many aspects. So that requires a very bold effort here. How could Facebook be present in Barcelona? I asked that question internally a million times. Like, hey, please let me open an office there. It's way beyond my pay grade to decide. It's like
was it for your own interest or for Barcelona's ecosystem?
No. I honestly and personally believe that we could be successful. I mean, as finding the right talent. It's more like a global strategy of where we position our offices, and there's like a million factors that will, like, as I mentioned, beyond what I can control. One, I want to refer to what I said at the beginning. Maybe the strategy is not to force big companies just to open offices in Catalonia. Maybe the thing is like, well, we have an amazing country. We have an amazing places. Well, now that the world is being distributed, what do we need to start attracting these people that are willing to relocate anywhere and sit down in Catalonia to do their work? I have a lot of friends that relocated from the UK to Tenerife because they were looking for a nice, beautiful place where to have sun, to work, and also have enjoyment. Well, what do we need to do just to do the same in Catalonia? And then maybe you will end up having to be like the expat hub for AI because it's an amazing place where to work. Maybe we have to start with that, and that will trigger the next steps. I don't know, any strategy is valid here. I would say, like, guys, let's think on what is the right strategy to attract the talent in any way. If ever Facebook or any big corporation opens a hub in Barcelona, that's going to be great, and I'm sure we'll be fueling all the talent we have to make that company successful. But I have my faith into that this will happen one day for Facebook or for any other company. But I mean, I think like a lot of that is on us to create the right ecosystem and the right reception strategy for this to happen.
Actually, you touched upon a topic that I wanted to discuss if we had time today, which is this role of digital nomads or remote working, because we saw during the pandemic that you can work from here to an institution there, or the other way around. Somebody from there can work from an institution here. And so how do you think, and this is a question for the three of you, that this is going to disrupt tech sectors, and in our case, the AI sector in Barcelona? Is this an opportunity? Could it be a threat? Because any hub in the world could attract people, and let's be frank here, Barcelona could have a good combination of well-being, weather, and other cultural assets at the same time as some work opportunities. But if we are only competing on prices, weather, and these like well-being and so on, it's plenty of other cheaper, nicer, and warmer places. So what's your take on that?
That's a good point. Definitely, we don't want to be competing on cheaper, nice food, weather. I mean, that's a factor, and definitely it's a strong factor. Don't get me wrong, but that's not the factor. We should be ones like, hey, if you come to Barcelona, you might be able to have like meeting points with like, I don't know, 200 other engineers on AI, because people, you have the ecosystem there of people, that digital nomads, as you said. I think this is too new. This started in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, that question had no sense. I mean, nobody's going to be doing that. Because this is something so new, I would monitor that. Just let's learn. Let's see let's do studies. Let's ask the people that come to us, and why are you coming here? Why are you going there? Let's ask the people that go to Tenerife or to Singapore, why are you going there and not another place? And try to understand what are the motivations. That could be like that could be an interesting opportunity. But I think this is so new that I would not precipitate. Let's look from afar. Let's see what we have to add to the ecosystem to make this attractive, and not just like a place where there's good weather and good food, because then people might become mercenaries. Then like the next place is going to be somewhere nicer, sunnier, and better food, and we don't want to be competing on that. We want to be adding some extra value. That's a strategy to decide.
I would say that, on my view, is a question of balance. No. As you say, it's only the wellness and the kindness of the city, maybe by its own, is not a reason. But when you combine this configuration of the city, which is quite kind for living, with a rich ecosystem, which is an emergent opportunity for everybody in the field, then the thing change. And I think, well, in fact, in several international rankings, Barcelona has been ranked in a very good position for innovation, for creating, for digital transformation, for artificial intelligence, for business, and blah, blah, blah. No? So when you add to that, let's say, professional side, the niceness of the city, this is something that makes it a little bit singular all over the world, I would say.
Thank you so much, Karina. We have time for a very, very, very short last question. Marty from Germany, he's asking, how can companies or institutions create a data-driven culture? Do you agree that many organizations still conceive data as a department property, but not a central organizational asset?
May I?
Karina?
So there's a phenomenon that was formalized in 2004 by someone called Hammond. That's called the fact gap. And I always talk about that because this represents the disconnection between data and decision making. And that's the big challenge, let's say. So it's not only about developing very powerful methodologies to extract value from data. This is, in fact, my specialty, no? I work on that. But once you have all those extra value that the data can provide you, you need to insert in the right place in the decision-making process. And this is something that requires this cultural transformation on the companies and on the institutions everywhere. And it's, in my view, it's part of the digital transformation process. Okay, so we have a lot of technology that can help us a lot. And now we have to become conscious on how this data analysis, let's say, or data science, or data mining, or big data, or analytics, you can call it whatever you want, how this is really helping in improving the processes, the strategies, the expansion of the business, and these kind of things. Always from trying to keep the human in the middle as a European view. No, but this is, in my view, this is the most challenging part. This is starting now. So some companies start to understand that they have a lot of data that can take much more profit than they are doing now, no? And this is also linked with open data policies and transparency laws and all these sort of things. But the key point is how do you insert the result of this data analysis into the decision-making processes?
Well, I like to add that, I mean, for instance, for me, at Facebook and previous roles I played at Microsoft, everything is data-driven. I mean, it's really hard to take arbitrary decisions when serving, like, I don't know, 2,000 million people, and with a variety of cultures, profiles, and a million things. And when you want to, like, for instance, right now we are like doing project planning for the second half of the year. Where do we allocate our assets? Which projects do we want to? What is the headroom? How much we can improve? Like how we take a decision? Let's put 100 people to work on that, or let's put 0. Everything is data driven. Right now, I cannot imagine, at least for my role, like not taking a decision with, I don't know, a lot of data points. It could be like, I mean, it could be a good bet. I mean, but I mean, of course, and sometimes you have to take bets. Sometimes you have to say, like, I don't know, I don't have the data. And my intuition says that this might be an interesting area of research, and we can see if that works. But usually, like, you never jump into a pool if you don't see, like, okay, is there water there? Okay, let me try.
But this is a very nice contribution from your part, because you are a company that was data-driven, culturally born. From the beginning, you were created in that way, no? But now, if you think about all those old enterprises that has been historically working, for example, in Catalonia, we have a very rich tissue of small and middle enterprises, and also of big companies that are familiar companies that come from 80, 100 years ago. So those are not in your position, and they need to make the jump.
I mean, I would say, I think Roche is an excellent example. We are about 125 years old, right? I think few companies can say that, right? So for us, digital transformation has a different meaning. And I think, how can we achieve that? I think we can achieve it thanks to you. So we need brilliant people. And for tech talents, we compete with other industries, right? I think we compete with the tech companies, we compete with banking, we compete with the automobile industry, right? And that's also the power you have as a data scientist to decide where do you want to work, right? And I, of course, want to convince you to work for healthcare. Yeah, I mean, I would be very happy if one day we become working colleagues.
Well, I'm afraid that we're running out of time, but this has been a fascinating conversation. So let's wrap up here. Thank you so much, Christian, Glòria, and Karina, for this enlightening discussion. As we saw today, artificial intelligence and data science will reshape the future of industry processes, teams, and leaderships. The COVID-19 pandemic has dramatically accelerated the phenomenon. During the pandemic, managers realized that they could run many aspects of their business remotely and with digital solutions. And this experience has transformed mindsets. Leaders are more likely to lean into a future that lies in digital investments, data, and definitely AI. In consequence, we cannot avoid upskilling to become digitally proficient, and we must do this across every sector, as we saw today, from pharmaceutical companies rolling out data science tools within their drug discovery workforce to manufacturing industries creating, let's say, digital twin simulations to optimize their processes. If you're a scientist, a researcher, or technology expert that studied or worked in Barcelona and are currently based abroad, please remember to join the Barcelona Alumni digital platform. This network will help you reconnect, as we were saying today, and strengthen the links with Barcelona's ecosystem, as well as with other global professionals like the ones that we're speaking today, and also give you the chance to engage in scientific and business collaborations with fellow members and institutions. You can access it at barcelonaalumni.org. Some of our alumni work at top-notch institutions such as Roche or Facebook, as we saw today, but also Harvard, MIT, the Singapore Center for Quantum Technologies, Google, Apple, Tencent, Tesla. So I hope that you join us in this exciting journey to unite Barcelona's science, technology, and innovation experts currently based abroad. Thank you very much for being with us today. Muchísimas gracias. Stay safe and see you very soon.